Okay, so welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today we are looking at something a little bit different.
Yeah, this should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, a lot of you have been asking us to cover the game Lethal Company,
hmm
and we're not really Let's Players ourselves.
Yeah, I don't think we have the patience or the temperament to do Let's Plays,
Yeah,
but thankfully there's plenty of those out there already.
exactly.
Mhm.
You guys pointed us towards a really fun Let's Play from the YouTube channel Omega Pixel.
Yeah, they do some pretty entertaining stuff.
And the game is Lethal Company. It's this cooperative sci-fi horror game.
Kind of a survival horror.
Yeah, where
Uh,
you and your team are basically space janitors going to these abandoned facilities
hmm
to extract valuable scrap and,
Try not to die.
yeah, try not to die in horrible and often hilarious ways.
Right.
And so we thought it'd be really fun to kind of dive into this Let's Play, not from the perspective of like
Mhm.
providing a tutorial or anything like that,
hmm
but really to look at like
Right.
what are the core experiences that this game
Creates.
creates
Yeah.
and what can we learn about teamwork and cooperation and like
Yeah.
the nature of fear and humor when you're facing like constant threats
Right.
and kind of like
We knew.
it's kind of like pressure to perform.
Yeah, I mean, what's so great about this as source material is it's not some sort of like, polished documentary or carefully crafted
No.
argument or any like this is just raw, unfiltered gameplay.
Yeah.
We're working from a transcript of their video, and it's amazing. Like, we get to see their immediate reactions, the
Yeah.
spur of the moment strategies, the chaotic outcomes, when you're dealing with a game like this that's
Yeah.
full of jump scares and unexpected challenges.
Exactly.
It's really a fascinating look, I think, at like emergent gameplay,
Yeah.
like how these players kind of like on the fly figure out how to play this game together.
Yeah, and how they fail
Yeah.
to play it together.
Right.
Right. Like it's like a push and pull between like,
Yeah.
individual survival and the need to cooperate to extract the most amount of resources.
Exactly.
It's really fascinating to watch.
So yeah, let's jump right into it.
All right, let's do it.
So the video starts and, classic streamer stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of audio testing.
Right.
There's a slight like stutter in the recording.
You got to make sure everything's working right.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden there's this like, oh, hey, wait a minute. We have a fourth player.
Right out of nowhere.
Yeah, and what's even funnier is that this fourth player, Equate, is someone that a Megapixel like just met.
Like minutes before recording this.
Yeah, literally minutes before recording. So
Talk about being thrown in the deep end.
I know, right? Like
Yeah.
talk about a lack of any pre-planning or strategy, right?
Right, just got to go with the flow.
Exactly. So their very first mission, they decide, okay, let's go to this moon that's labeled ZJ ready.
But what's interesting is like one of the players hadn't actually confirmed that they were ready.
Right. So already there's like a breakdown in communication.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I think that really sets the tone for what we're about to experience.
Absolutely.
Right? Like this,
Not quite on the same page.
not quite on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they go to this moon and their initial scavenging trip, they find mostly dead. That's how they describe it,
Yeah, pretty bleak.
which I thought was really funny. Like that's the core mechanic of this game, right?
Right, resource scarcity. Like you can't just expect to waltz in there and find,
Yeah.
diamonds and gold everywhere. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta work for it.
Yeah. And so immediately we're introduced to like the hazards of this game. And it's not just the alien creatures,
Oh no.
right? There's these like surprisingly lethal turrets.
Right.
There's these unsettling bug-like things just kind of crawling around.
Hmm.
And of course falling damage, which
Wow.
is always
So
a classic. Yeah, so poor Z learns this the hard way very quickly in the video. He gets taken out by a turret.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, and I think that early death really highlights a key element of this game, which is that like
Yeah.
even the seemingly static environment, like the architecture,
Just the structure of these facilities.
it's all dangerous.
It's actively hostile. It's not just about the monsters,
Right.
You got to be aware of everything around you.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a constant like state of vigilance, I think that's required.
Yeah, you can't let your guard down.
Not even for a second.
Not even for a second. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this other layer of complexity that we see introduced right away,
Yeah.
which is that
Yeah.
one of the players Equate, he doesn't have a microphone. He can only communicate through text chat.
Right, so that adds a whole other
Yeah.
layer of difficulty to the communication.
Sometimes it's like,
Trying to play a team sport where you can only communicate through like written notes or something.
yeah, it's like playing a game of telephone where half the messages are delayed and written down.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So, despite all this, right, they have this communication issue. They've already lost a teammate.
They barely know each other.
They barely know each other.
Yeah.
They managed to scrape together like $230 worth of scrap.
Which is not a lot.
Yeah. And their assessment of this moon is, I think the quote was, suck booty hole.
That's a pretty accurate assessment, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But they don't let this setback deter them.
Right. They're persistent.
They're ready for more punishment.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, so they go to a second moon, and this mission, I think, provides some really interesting contrasts.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we equate the silent player, right? He's actually getting praised for his effectiveness.
Right, proving that you don't necessarily have to be the loudest voice to be a valuable contributor.
Exactly.
Right.
Sometimes quiet observation and like...
Decisive action.
Yeah, decisive action can be just as, if not more. It's important, right? And then there's this funny little exchange about player ranks, like leader versus employee.
Which seems to be like a running joke
Yeah.
that doesn't really have any bearing on the actual gameplay.
Yeah, exactly. It's all in good fun.
Right.
And then there's this moment of like pure recklessness where one player attempts this crazy jump off the ship and somehow survives.
Yeah, I was shocked when he pulled that off.
I know, right? Like,
Talk about pushing your luck.
I know, just total disregard for safety.
Right.
But then things start to get a little bit more serious.
Mm-hmm.
They find these vents within the facilities.
Right.
And, for anyone who's played these types of games, vents are like
Oh,
a
yeah.
big warning sign.
Enemy spawn.
Yeah, like something's going to come out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a horror movie trope at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So their behavior immediately shifts, right? They become much more cautious.
You can practically feel the tension rising.
Yeah, you can feel it in the transcript.
Mm.
And then, poor EJ, he dies of suffocation.
Yeah. Not the most glorious way to go.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you, like, even the environment itself can kill you.
It's a constant threat.
Yeah.
You can't let your guard down.
Yeah, you can't assume anything is safe.
Nope.
But what's interesting is that they actually retrieve his body.
Right. Which could be for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
It could be out of like a sense of camaraderie, like we're not going to leave our teammate behind.
Yeah.
Even in digital form.
Yeah.
Or it could be more practical, like players often drop their loot when they die.
Right.
So, retrieving the body might be a way to get those items back.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It could be a mix of both.
Right. It's probably both.
Yeah. But their luck doesn't really improve. Another player gets taken out by something unseen.
Yeah. Adding to that feeling of vulnerability.
Yeah, you're constantly on edge.
Definitely.
So despite these losses, they do manage to get a much bigger haul this time, like $1,491 worth of scrap.
Okay, that's a decent chunk of change.
Yeah, but their reaction is still like, that's a poor haul.
Yeah. Which kind of tells you something about the game's economy, right? Like you're
Yeah.
constantly under pressure to get more and more scrap.
Yeah, the quotas must go up like exponentially.
Right. I mean, think about it. They face these dangers, they lose teammates, and they still feel like they didn't get enough.
Yeah, it's a constant grind.
It really highlights the risk-reward element of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So their next mission takes them to another moon, and this one kicks off with a player immediately sprinting ahead.
Ah, the classic speedrunner mentality.
Yeah, I got to go fast, right?
And slow down for anything.
Yeah. But, what are your thoughts on that strategy? Like,
Well, it can be good if you're trying to, like, discover loot quickly or find shortcuts. But it often comes at the cost of team cohesion.
right.
Like, you're isolating yourself, you're not sticking with your team,
Yeah.
which makes you more vulnerable to the game's threats.
Makes sense.
And sure enough, they run into trouble pretty quickly.
Yeah, they stumble upon a death room.
And that name alone tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, it's like the player bases collectively decided that this is a place to be feared.
Right. It's not like some official game designation. It's like word of mouth, like, hey, stay away from that room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this death room, it's full of steam vents.
Not exactly a relaxing spa day.
No, not at all. Very dangerous.
Yeah.
And then they have this really tense encounter with a coilhead monster.
Yeah.
And one player actually like volunteers to be the watcher.
Oh, right. To keep the creature frozen?
Yeah, while the others try to grab the loot.
That's actually a pretty smart strategy.
Yeah, I think so too. It shows like some level of coordination.
Yeah, definitely like they're learning to work together.
Yeah. But of course, this cooperation is short-lived.
Of course.
Another player gets killed by a loot bug.
Those things are sneaky.
I know, right? You're just minding your own business, trying to get some scrap,
And bam,
and suddenly you're dead.
Lupa gotcha.
Yeah, they're like the embodiment of opportunistic theft.
Pretty much.
So what follows is just pure chaos.
It's a mad dash for survival.
Yeah, they're trying to escape the coil head. They're dealing with these loot bugs.
People are getting separated, left behind.
Yeah, it's a total mess.
It really shows how quickly things can spiral out of control.
Yeah, but even in all this panic, there's still room for humor. Like they comment on the whoopee cushion sound effect.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's really important in a game like this, right?
Definitely.
Like that ability to find humor in the midst of all the stress and terror.
It's a coping mechanism, you know?
Yeah.
You got to be able to laugh at the absurdity of it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So their next move is to head back to the company building.
Right, to cash in their hard-earned scrap.
Yeah, and maybe buy some upgrades.
Hopefully something to make their lives a little easier.
Yeah, exactly, because they desperately need it.
They're not exactly equipped for success at this point.
No, they're not.
They're still using like the most basic gear.
Yeah, so they sell their scrap and they're like debating what to buy.
A flashlight seems like a good investment.
Yeah, you would think so, right? Considering how dark these environments are.
Yeah, it's essential gear.
Yeah. And then there's this funny comment about the box being a dick.
Yeah, which adds a little bit of narrative to it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just about surviving the monsters.
Yeah,
It's about working under this like oppressive system.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so their next attempt on a moon is incredibly short-lived.
Oh yeah, they get wiped out almost immediately.
Yeah, a spider attack just totally ruins their day.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and they described this run as completely base backwards, which I thought was a pretty accurate description.
Yeah, it's a good summation of their experience so far.
Yeah. So back to the company building.
To lick their wounds and spend their meager earnings.
Yeah, maybe invest in some better defenses against those spiders.
Hopefully they learn something from that encounter.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Experience is a harsh teacher.
That's for sure. Okay, so their fifth mission takes them to another moon.
All right, round 5. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and this time they find an apparatus.
Oh, those are always interesting.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get with those.
Right, it could be something amazing or it could be a complete dud.
Exactly. It adds an element of mystery.
Definitely keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. So, of course, they also encounter more bugs and another turret because those are just everywhere.
Seems like standard fare at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But this time they actually try to use a flashbang to coordinate an attack on a spider.
Oh, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it shows that they're starting to think tactically.
Yeah, working together using their tools.
Yeah, but unfortunately it doesn't work.
The spider still gets them.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder that even with a good plan, things can go wrong.
Right. You need perfect timing communication.
Yeah.
And a little bit of luck.
Yeah, exactly. So realizing that they're in danger of losing everything they decide to extract.
Sometimes retreat is the better part of valor.
Exactly. Gotta live to fight another day.
Right.
Okay, so their 6th mission starts off with a promising discovery, a key.
Ooh, keys usually mean locked doors.
Yeah, which means there's probably something good hidden behind them.
Right. The promise of valuable loot always motivates further exploration.
Yeah. And they also come across an engine and a sign, which are like little bits of environmental storytelling that kind of hint at the history of these abandoned facilities.
Yeah, it's like piecing together a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. And of course they find another death room.
Those are just inevitable at this point.
Yeah, it's like a staple of these facilities.
Right.
So one player gets a little bit too greedy, tries to grab some loot, and barely escapes a coil head.
That was a close one.
Yeah, pushing his luck again.
Definitely living on the edge.
Yeah. But then another player dies seemingly to a spider.
Judging by the numerous red dots on their radar,
Yeah, that's another key element of this game, right? That radar.
it gives you a general sense of where the threats are.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just too much information. Right? Like you can't process it all.
Yeah, and then in a really unfortunate sequence of events, another player gets taken out by a blob, blue bugs, and another coil head.
Yeah, that's just a recipe for disaster.
It's like everything just converged on them at once.
Right. Wrong place, wrong time.
Exactly. So their 7th mission, they need $209 to meet quota.
The pressure is on.
Yeah, and they managed to get enough scrap to, I think they think they're going to make it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. There's even this funny moment where they ring a doorbell.
Which is completely unnecessary.
Right.
But it adds a little bit of levity.
Yeah, it's just them messing around.
Right, just having some fun.
Yeah. And then we had this moment of like real world intrusion where one player mentions that he has to work the next day.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which is just like a funny reminder that they're not actually living in this game.
Right, they have real lives to go back to.
Yeah, exactly. And they also talk about their New Year's plans.
Just casual conversation amidst the chaos.
Yeah, it's a nice contrast. But then, the game reminds them that it's still a dangerous place. One player steps on a landmine and dies.
Just like that.
It's almost comical how sudden it is.
Yeah, no warning, no fanfare, just instant death.
Yeah, another reminder that these environmental hazards are no joke.
You gotta be careful where you step.
Exactly. And then another risky exploration ends in a dead end.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to top it all off, one player tries to do something with a bee nest and ends up getting left behind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tough break.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to prioritize your own survival.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a tough call.
Yeah. Okay, so their 8th mission begins with a target of $371.
All right. Let's see if they can pull it off.
And almost immediately one player falls off the ship. Oh no, not again.
That's like they can't even get started without someone dying.
It's becoming a running gag at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. But there is a mention of them trying to disable a turret on a previous run.
Okay, so they are learning from their mistakes.
Yeah, at least they're trying.
Right, taking note of the threats.
Yeah. But their scavenging efforts this time yield a brush and a cookie pan.
Not exactly high-value items.
No, but hey, every little bit helps.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then, wouldn't you know it, another player steps on a landmine.
Those things are a menace.
I know, right? They're like the bane of their existence.
Seems like they need to invest in some mine detectors.
Yeah. Or maybe just look where they're going.
That too.
Okay, so their 9th mission introduces a new terrifying creature, the Bracken Monster.
Oh, I've heard about these things.
Yeah, they're creepy.
Yeah, they require a very specific strategy.
Yeah, you have to look at them to prevent them from attacking.
Which is unsettling in itself.
Yeah, but then you have to look away to move.
Just like a psychological game.
Yeah, it's really messed up.
Definitely adds a layer of tension.
Yeah, so they go into this really dark area, and they have a near-death experience with another creature called Coil P.
Probably another variation of the coil head.
Yeah, they're just everywhere.
Seems like it.
And then a player falls into a chasm.
Another instant death trap.
Yeah, those are fun.
Not really.
No. And then in a rapid succession of events, they get completely wiped out.
Just overwhelmed by the sheer number of creatures.
Yeah, sometimes there's just no escape.
Nope.
So their final mission in this Let's Play, they recognize a Bracken room.
Okay, so they're starting to learn the map.
Yeah, which is good, but of course it's not enough to save them.
Knowledge only gets you so far.
Yeah, one player gets lost.
Easy to do in those maze-like facilities.
Yeah, and then they have a series of spider encounters, and one player ends up getting caught and killed high up on the webs.
Yeah, that's a pretty gruesome image.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
It definitely sticks with you.
Yeah. So after this, they're like, okay, maybe we should just extract.
The frustration is palpable.
Yeah, they're done. And then in a final act of misfortune, they end up $1 short of their quota.
Oh, no. So close.
I know, right? It's like the game is just mocking them at this point.
Yeah, it's like a final insult.
Yeah, exactly.
So close yet so far.
So close yet, so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can we take away from all this?
Well, I think we've witnessed a really fascinating example of emergent gameplay.
Yeah.
You know how players interact with the game and with each other
Mhm.
in these really challenging circumstances?
And the tension between cooperation and self-preservation is like a constant theme.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
you're constantly trying to balance those two things.
Yeah.
And the threat of the unknown is always there.
Yeah, you never know what's around the corner.
Right. And that creates this sense of fear, but also this kind of dark humor.
Yeah.
Like you saw them laughing at their own deaths.
Yeah.
It's so absurd.
Yeah, it's like the only way to cope.
Exactly.
And I think for you, the listener, what's really interesting to consider is like the dynamics of communication under pressure.
Yeah.
You know, even when that communication is imperfect or partially absent.
Right, because these players are not professional communicators.
No.
They're just friends trying to have fun and make it out alive.
Yeah, and so how do they adapt or fail to adapt to the game's challenges?
Right.
You know, what does their struggle tell us about teamwork?
Yeah.
Even when it's marked by like missteps and miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
what strategies would you find yourself employing in these situations?
Right. Would you be the cautious planner,
Yeah.
the reckless risk taker,
Yeah,
the silent observer?
exactly.
There's so many different ways to approach this game.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so compelling.
Definitely.
So yeah, this deep dive into Lethal Company, you know, it raises some really interesting questions.
About risk and reward,
Yeah.
about teamwork,
Yeah,
about our ability to find humor in the darkest of times.
exactly.
And I think that's what makes it so fascinating to watch.
Yeah, and who knows what other insights might be lurking within these digital mishaps.
Right.
Maybe this deep dive has inspired you to go check out Lethal Company yourself.
Or maybe another cooperative survival game.
Yeah,
There's a whole genre out there,
there is.
just waiting to be explored.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So yeah, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll see you next time.